All right, we can start with the first slide, please. Luckily, having an Italian background allows me to be able to do this like kind of like changing slide thing very well. So today we're here to talk about building resilience through data values. What do you think data values means? There's going to be an extremely interactive session, not only because we have the best people in EuroDIG in this room, but also because otherwise it will be kind of defeat the purpose of engaging young people.
So data values may, I understand data value as a value for a research, for instance. Is data good for the research? Is it valuable in the quality of it, the content, how it is organized, what is the output we can get from the data, and is
Absolutely.
It easily distributed in the meaning of open data, can you reach it freely, or is it like a case of paying for the data?
And it's not just a matter of output, as you very eloquently put, but it's also a matter of input. Yeah. It's what kind of data do we use, what kind of data do we select, how do we start training this data, and how do we bring the accountability to what the results are? Who is responsible for how the data is selected, how the data is developed? The data value movement, if you're interested in joining the movement, is a movement across 70 countries. It's coordinated by the Global Partnership for Sustainable Development Data, which is an organization that is part of the United Nations Foundation. And the idea is to create a dialogue all over the world, not just in the Western side of our society, to discuss what is the real meaning of data. Because this might come as a surprise. It definitely was for me, coming from a very Eurocentric kind of academic background, that in the rest of the world, there might be some priorities, some concerns that do not align with what the European aspect is. So for instance, in Europe right now, we're doing a lot of effort on trying to regulate things. The GDPR has made already like a lot of changes, and yet the GDPR has been highly contested, especially by the German government, for not being strong enough. While in other developing countries, what happens usually is that you have the governments actually demanding to have a more free use of data, because for the development of the society, as the word says, it is necessary for them to have less regulation to be able to have the population and implement some public value. So it's also a matter of where do we find the balance with all of that. So the idea is to be able to recreate this pathway and having a discussion on how do we create a more balanced participation in society and to reestablish the power dynamic between the data system. And that's why the Global Partnership has worked towards a data values manifesto. That is a white paper that you can check out. In the next slide, I have a QR code that you can scan. You can bring this home with you. This can be like your nighttime read. This can also be something that you want to talk about in your universities, for instance. I will be very happy of sending you some material if you would like to host a session within your NGOs, within your companies, or within your academic institutions, to highlight basically what the work of this white paper has been about, and is the promotion of certain principles for data values. I do understand that like the text, there is a lot of text on this slide, so I'm just going to go quickly through you this. Those are the main 5 aspects of what creates a data value society. Is the support for the people and the institution in the way that we are shaping their data. It is the investment, because without money, especially developing communities, not much can be obtained. And it's to democratize data skills. What this means is that whatever we do in our society, data will always have an effect on it. The result of having data that is not democratic is that there cannot be any input that will come out of that will actually be democratic. Create a culture of transparency. We do have countries right now that are very comfortable with open data. The Netherlands, for instance, has a very big database in there. Sorry, we missed one. And responsive to found open and responsive data system. As I said, all of this can be found like quite eloquently in the white paper, but this is not what I want to focus with you today. I want to focus on how we can get engagement. How do we start taking action? when especially the funds are limited, when the resources are limited, and when majority of the work about data activism is done by volunteers. Open the conversation online. That doesn't take much. Creating a webinar, it became after COVID actually quite easy. People do have an interest in those topics, and that doesn't have to require you to have a high level of English. You can do it in whatever native language you prefer. People do tend to join, and people do tend to have an interest in this. Build the coalitions, find the opportunities like this, like EuroDIG and EuroDIG, to connect with people that have similar interests as yours, so that you can collaborate on projects like this. Pass on the learnings. Be the one that is like starting a conversation in another academic institution on this, and bring people together and try to bring the perspective coming from your own background. I try to always focus on the fact that I come from the south of Italy. There is not an area of the world that is specifically known for being quite digitalized. And although we are still quite developed, I cannot say that it's an area of the world where you see like a lot of young people focusing on their data, because there are other priorities: employment, housing, surviving on a daily basis. How do we connect with communities like this? Your perspective, based on the area where you come from, the communities where you come from, the learning that you got from your family, your perspective is the one that has to shape the conversation. If we have a data value conversation that is shaped only on one idea, then we're not having an inclusive conversation, and we are set to fail. Then with the input that we're giving already, our data, that's also messed up. What is the role of social media in all of this? I mean, I'm pretty sure that everyone in this room has used at least one social media in their lifetime. And I'm pretty sure that you have seen already, or you have done it yourself, to use social media to amplify a voice. Think of campaigns, think of university protests. Having social media currently is a way for people to get mobilized. And to support youth development. You cannot think of having an NGO nowadays without having a very strong social media background. You cannot reach out to young people unless you're there. I personally was absolutely shocked when I discovered that EuroDIG does not have an Instagram account. And I was like, how am I supposed to tag them now? And I was very confused about this, because I think that this is like something that we're starting to see more and more. I have a 9-year-old brother. I'm going to use him a lot in this conversation, but because I always take him as the best kind of like data that I can have about a Gen Z. The way he does things, he doesn't access Google to search for something. He goes on TikTok and just search for things on TikTok. Now, as you know, TikTok has this year been first banned in, well, not even banned, it's been, the European Union has expressed concern, which is kind of a meme sentence for nowadays, about the use of TikTok in the hands of public institutions, so European Parliament people. And now the US is following up. But we're not having the conversation about where do we host data centers yet. We are telling people to not use social media, but people are still going to be there. Yes, we can put restriction. People below the age of 13 years old should not be on TikTok. Yeah, because that worked so well with pornography, right? Yes. I am currently disconnected, so I cannot see exactly where we are, but it doesn't matter. The Wi-Fi has failed me. And that's another aspect. Data infrastructure. How do we make sure that everyone has the same access all over the world? We have, in this data value project, we have a constant conversation with people from all over the world. One of the main issues that still happens in 2023 is that we have people that don't have good data connection. Now, I currently live in Estonia, and Estonia is famous for being one of the few countries, not the only country in the world, that has good data and internet as a human right. Finland is also quite good on this. But if you take many other countries, connection is quite limited. It tends to be very expensive as well. Many kids do not have a chance to access internet unless they go to school. And many families cannot really think of providing internet as part of, the kind of expenses they have to put towards a child. Perhaps they may be using it to work as well. So infrastructure and access to the internet, we give it for granted a lot. But it is currently still like a big problem. And we do not have, I don't think we have enough a conversation on how that is actually shaping the way we go ahead. We can go ahead, and if you give me a minute, I will also try to reconnect so I can share from my laptop.
I think the Wi-Fi gives you first 15 minutes to click the link.
And you have to.
And I did. That's why I'm not sure why I got locked out again. It just said that I cannot join. Diagnostic problem, whatever. It's fine. We'll survive. Can you think of a campaign, aside from the one that I've already put for you on the screen? Can you think of a social media campaign, something that has been mobilizing people, something that kind of spread fire around? I personally thought of this. March for Her Life, that started a conversation of gun control after the mass shooting in Florida. The Black Lives Matter, in the past couple of years, the movement then started increasingly getting recognition around the world. And if you think of the Me Too movement, that all started with a woman that decided to speak up and start saying on LinkedIn, hey, I don't want to go to work and get harassed. And it became now a very big campaign now. And although I think there is a lot more that can be done on that matter, we do have a conversation now on something that until maybe 10 years ago was not even a problem. We didn't have a C-level employees starting to be concerned about someone Me Tooing them. So not only we have a campaign that starts on social media, we have a new vocabulary that starts from that. Human life freedom. As you know, like the women of Iran are under a very oppressive regime. And after the death of Mahsa Amini, the campaign started gathering people and mobilizing young people all around the country. What was the first thing that the government did? Take off their internet. So in the most important and expensive thing in Iran, did not even become humans' life, because young people were ready to sacrifice their life for the cause for what they believed in. It became being able to provide internet connection. It became VPNs. And if you're following some news as well about the war on Ukraine, you do know how much like having an internet connection can save life. I think also this year, the earthquake in Turkey, Twitter was the main way people were communicating where they were, how to locate them, how to save them. And the resharing this was having an effect to save someone's life. And finally, the Arab Spring. It was one of the oldest examples probably that I could think of, because it's back in 2010, started in Tunisia, spread all around. And this also started on the internet. So it's someone who decided, hey, my digital identity will be a channel to promote not only what I believe in, but what I think other people should care about. We can go ahead one more. I will try to reconnect again, maybe with another email. Perhaps this time it will like it more. I agree to Tampere University in terms of use of IT. I think we have no other choice, right? I would love to see if you have any ideas of some other examples that we can add to this list.
The campaign about climate change, so they protested.
Fridays for Future, yes. Yeah. And I don't know if you if you followed her, but Greta Thunberg recently came back on the viral scene. What she did basically was her very famous speech. How dare you? She started making a reel in which she was mocking herself, and that became viral because, of course, people were like, oh, no, what's wrong with her? I mean, she's always complaining. So you have like a negative reaction that it usually starts when you have young people decided to tell the establishment that they want to change things. But I also thought it was extremely interesting because she brought a lot of interest back to something that is not actually that old. But with the pandemic in the middle and so many changes in the past years, and especially this year with the commercialization of ChatGPT, all the attention has been moved from how do we survive as a society and how do we go ahead of saving our planet to, okay, fantastic. How do we regulate this technology so the robots are not going to take over? So she used something that was quite easy for her, mocking herself, one of the oldest forms of humor, to bring back attention and the attention span over something that was gone otherwise. I don't know how many people currently in Europe have a memory, for instance, of the Arab Spring. And I'm sorry to say that even the Me Too movement has kind of faded away in the past years. So it is kind of also like a matter of how do we keep these campaigns sustainable? How do we avoid something to just be relevant because it's a viral content? And how do we keep it up? And I'm gonna make a guess in there, and I don't think that the Me Too movement has faded because the cases have declined. We can go on. So not everything is doomed. So the data is focused on Europe. Because of this project of the data value campaign, it's 7 of us. We've been selected by a global partnership in different areas of the world. And while one of my colleagues in Africa, for instance, are mostly focused on digital infrastructure and data literacy, I had a different conversation with myself. It's like, okay, can we really talk about an emergency for data literacy in Europe? I mean, if you look at the DESI, yes, of course, you see like some countries tend to have a very high level. Of course, if you look at Scandinavia, usually those are the countries that tend to be like quite good with this. Some countries are still struggling, but overall, this is just my opinion. I don't think we're doing that bad. I think if we start like not taking things in black and white and actually in comparison of how like the rest of the world is going, Europe is in an extremely privileged position on this, because almost 71% of our like young Europeans have the basic digital skills. What that basic means is exactly how you think of it. And we have more than 50% that have like even above level. So maybe we need to rethink what data literacy means. Can we still talk about data literacy when even my mom, who gets scammed at least twice a year by clicking wrong links online, my uncle sending this coffee memes, good morning, with a little player from Jesus. And there is a nice, like, that's
an international thing.
Yes. Every language has a version of that. It's fantastic. And I also discovered every religion also, they change. Oh, but it's very, and usually like when you click on it, I'm like, please don't do that. Mom, please don't do on the link. And then it's like, oh my God, whether it's porn on my laptop. And I'm like, I don't know. But even her, she knows how to share that. So actually, we can say that she has basic digital literacy skills. So I want to make a guess, and I think that when I say data literacy, that's what you think of. I don't think that you think of data literacy as the person sitting next to you right now. And I'm also going to make another guess. I think that when you go to university, I don't think that you're also thinking of how good the data literacy of your peers is. We have a conversation of data literacy that is mostly focused on elder people, which is good, and we need to have it. It's correct. But we have seen that as population is also aging, we are actually having good results about this. We have a new generation that has the basic data skill. So maybe it's not data literacy that I started thinking. Maybe that's not what we need. So I started thinking, and I was like, okay, maybe there is another definition that I can find, and this is going to be exactly what I'm looking for. You can go on the next slide. And I found like data proficiency. Now, I'm not a huge fan of reading definition, so that's why I brought you visualization of that. But data proficiency is a term that is used to describe a higher level of data literacy, ability to read, understand, create, communicate data information. Data literacy refers to a more advanced level of data literacy. Fantastic. What you're thinking is probably this. Guy in the basement, constantly wearing a hoodie, no one knows what kind of temperature is where he is. That's the idea that we currently have of data proficiency. So I told myself, okay, maybe what we need to think of is data governance. Data governance is a set of principles and practices that ensure high quality through the complete life cycle of data. If you have any knowledge or experience firsthand of data governance, what actually feels like is this. So clearly, it's not even data governance that we have to focus on. So the point is, It is important to young people to feel that they have ownership on their own data. It is important because it builds a skill that, especially for the Italians in the room, I think that you're going to love this word because it became kind of a meme itself by 2020, and it's resilience. Maybe that's what we have to start talking about. If you allow people to develop this resilience, you're giving young people the most important, essential skill that you can provide them in those times. Because it's also a matter of bouncing back. It's a matter of adapting, of accepting the new technology, of having a critical approach when new technology comes in, of being constantly informed while being constantly bombarded by new information on a daily basis. You're not most likely going to have a single day of your life in this year in which you don't hear on every day some news about a new piece of technology. It might be coming from podcasts, so you might be looking for it, or maybe just like something that automatically comes to you. And we don't have the time, as we did before, to wait for this kind of changes to mingle in our society, to get in. I mean, the internet is not a new thing. We have people here, I met people that were working on the internet in the beginning of 1980s, but I do remember the first computer coming into my house in 97, and it was a horrible piece of plastic with the Windows 97 screen. I could only access to play Flipper, and we had to make a decision in our household. Would we have internet connection right now, or do we answer the phone? You could not have both things at the same time. And we're talking about Italy beginning of 2000. I didn't grow up like, 200 years ago. Although I do feel like a little bit like this guy when I'm on TikTok. So it's an exercise of empathy. We need to put ourselves in the context of what young people are currently going through. Let's talk about the being native digital. I don't think you were born already on the internet, but your kids, your brothers, your sister, your students even, they will. My 9-year-old brother has his own tablet, has his own phone. He knows how to block and unblock things on his mom's phone. His mom has to go to him to ask information on how to do things. He has YouTube for kids, of course, but I mean, he knows how to go on the regular YouTube. He has this idea that the internet is something that comes from the sky and is given by the trees. A couple of years ago, I was with him in the south of Italy. We had a horrible summer of wildfires. We were locked inside our house for 3 days. The region of Calabria, which is not really well known for having the best kind of response, because there were wildfires everywhere. And I was alone with my grandmother and a 9-year-old.
So it's every year.
Yeah. Of course, the needs of my grandmother were having to repeat her 5 times a day that she could not go out, that she had to stay in, so that the air was still going to be breathable, and keep her entertained. So give her something to do, give her something to cook. But for my 9-year-old brother, that was hell. He was coming to it, I was, Tata, there is no Wi-Fi. Right, Giovanni, there is no Wi-Fi because there is no connection. What does it mean? Because of the fires, we don't have any phone line, there is no connection. But I don't need a phone, I need Wi-Fi. And I'm like, yes, but the two things are connected. It's like, but I cannot play without Wi-Fi. And I'm like, I know. So, okay, then give me your phone and I'll connect, I'll do hotspots from your phone. Giovanni, the hotspot won't work either because that's also internet and that also is depending on that. And he just went, like, imagine like this little thing with hands in his hair, going to his grandma and be like, Grandma, we are doomed. And my grandma's going like, come on and give a little Wi-Fi to this kid. What is he asking for? Let him play. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to get out of this situation alive. But he doesn't know what a life without internet is. He has never experienced that. But he also didn't receive a comprehensive education to know exactly what he's encountering. My brother, he plays on the metaverse. He can explain to you how Roblox works, how the metaverse works. He knows that those are real people on the other side. He knows that you can talk to them, but he also knows that you can do whatever you want because you're in the metaverse. If I ask some of the people currently, they are leaders of our industry, which is a word that I love to use as a substitution for boomers, to explain what the metaverse is, I will have most likely answers that are extremely pessimistic, but not really explain. And if I ask them, like, have you ever had something? Have you ever owned something in the metaverse? Like, no, you don't own things. You can buy everything you want in the metaverse. You can make careers building and providing services on the metaverse. There is a whole new level of jobs opportunity opening up for you currently. And kids, they know how to buy things. They know how to get the new skins and houses and, I don't know, Minecraft tools, cars, whatever they want to buy there. They know how to connect the VR set, and they know what the difference is between virtual reality and reality. They don't need someone to explain how to move. So they have already established all this connection. But their creativity is also under scrutiny. Kids are content creators. Even when they're streaming, even when they put something out there, there is an immediate response. There is an algorithm that is playing with their life. If you put a nice picture of you here and you tag people from EuroDIG, most likely the algorithm will like push you up. You will have a serotonin boost, and you will bring home that you have 100 likes. For a child, doesn't know what is the difference between having 100 likes and having 100 people that love you. That will feel incredible. But it also means that if you will get 10, his self-esteem or her self-esteem will go down. So with the content they put out there, there is a massive level of pressure that they're under, because they are aware that whatever they put, there is a response for it. At the same time, they also need to navigate the crazy events of our society. So I had also, again, my cousin asking me, why there is a war in Ukraine? I was like, okay. And I wondered, how do you know about this? And it's like, someone on Roblox was mentioning it. And I'm like, why? I said, yeah, I was playing with Russian kids. And they started insulting people, and then they got banned from the room. And I'm like, okay, I did not expect to have to explain to a child the current scenario that horribly we are living through in our days, due to the fact that he encountered this while playing a video game. That's supposed to be resting time, no? Video games are supposed to be something you do for relaxing, not to discover that something is happening and you're horrified. And all of those platforms have their own languages. There is a lingo that is developed through all of this. The reason why you were laughing at the memes is because we have this in common, regardless of which background you come from, which country you were born in, and which language is your mother tongue. We all understand that. When we see Hade Payne Harold there with his smile, we all know that that's everyone's favorite Hungarian dad. We have a new way of communicating. What does it mean for the people that are outside of this language? How do we communicate also with them? So I would like to show you something now. And this is the time in which I will tell you, please take your phone. Because we've been talking so much about this, so why not? Could you give me hosting rights, please? I think I am my Equivox. Okay. So you can please take your phone, scan this beautiful QR code, or you can open Menti. I think your digital skills are advanced enough for me not to tell you how this works, but yeah, if you have any problem with that, just raise your hand and we can try to see how to fix it. But ideally, we have everyone connected. And that also allows me to come a little bit closer to you. Okay. Okay.
Please, if there are open answers, yes. It's an open question?
Yes.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a word, actually. I think it's going to be a word cloud. Shouldn't the result just start automatically? Isn't that how it works? Oh, here we are. Okay. Decided to pause. Let's see. Okay, yes, should work now, right? Okay. So we have competences, literacy, safety, safeguarding mechanisms, smart future nation, combating disinformation, awareness, make them feel secure, absolutely, and building a community of independent thinkers to ensure the meaningful use. So do you realize that there is a pattern in all the answers that you said? And it's what was brought up in the beginning. Is data value? So why don't we have this conversation about data values? Why are we focusing so much on the digital literacy aspect and you don't hear anyone talking about the value of data for young people?
It's easier to talk about the literacy. It's already old the discourse, and people who are not Gen Z just are comfortable speaking about literacy because it's like.
And I'll take it a step further and I'm going to ask you, don't you think that the fact that we have seen all those campaigns and those mobilization from social media kind of give you an example of the kind of concerns that are out there, that if the young people do feel more in control of their own data and more in control of what they can put out there and have like an amplified voice, this might actually create some problem for people. Certain undemocratic governments, certain governments that do not have their data literacy on point to be able to fight that or to control that. Currently, Italy is working on a new rule. There is supposed to ban challenges from YouTube. I know this sounds madness, but it is. What happened is that a week ago was a car accident, which a kid was killed. And this tragedy was caused by two young people that have a YouTube account. And on this YouTube account, they happen to do challenges. Challenges like, I will put this biscuit in Coca-Cola and eat it. I will stay awake for 48 hours. I mean, these kind of things that, yeah, people do and people watch it just for entertainment. Now, there is absolutely no proof whatsoever at the moment, as we are speaking, that the reason why the car accident was caused was related to a challenge. But immediately, the fact that on the media, their job was parked as they're YouTubers, put the effort of the Italian parliament towards developing a law that is supposed to ban Italian YouTubers to do challenges. I want to see how they will provide a legal definition of a challenge. That's the first thing that I want to say. How are we going to do that? Do you have a memory of what it was like when Mark Zuckerberg came to the European Parliament and he was the one under investigation, and he said he was looking around. It's like, oh, Europe is really beautiful. Thank you for having me. Like, dude, you're here to answer questions. But the questions that we're asking here, both in the European Parliament and in the American Congress, were embarrassing. We were asking questions like, how do you have a free website? They run ads. What do you mean? We have advertisement. What kind of advertisement? What? When Cambridge Analytica scandal came up, everyone was like so surprised. How are the policymakers, how did they not see this coming? The way they didn't see it coming for me is because they didn't have the interest of young people in mind at the time. They didn't think how we're going to make this. So we go back on the presentation, and then I have to speed up a bit because I don't want to be completely out of time. Back on the presentation, please. Next slide. So this is just a little bit of data that I'll be very happy to share with you. Like those are studies that were found. We do have young people having more attitude of trusting AIs, and there is also a correlation between the level of awareness, knowledge, and even the personality of the individual in how much trust they will have in the AI. But also they have also found out that the level of digital competence and self-esteem in this regards that people have shapes the way their children will also nurture digital competences. So as we have a generation of millennials now starting to have kids, it is not just in the interest of this generation, but in the future one to start putting more effort on this. And also, we have plenty of studies that do mention how social media is affecting our mental health. What we do not know if it's because we are the first generations that openly say like, yeah, my therapist told me that, or if it's actually because we start seeing these results. But do we really need to have studies to realize that? How many times have you found yourself like unlimited scrolling and you were like, I just lost an hour of my life and I feel so depressed. I'm so alone. Someone was texting you and they were like, oh, I don't have the strength for this. I'll pretend I'm not online. I'm just gonna keep scrolling through stuff because I cannot talk to 5,000 people in one moment. It's too much for me. I need to really see how this challenge ends right now. So we're gonna go a little bit further because we have to go up again. My question is then, how do we start creating the data that actually serves the young people? Go ahead again, please. So what my project has been focused on, because as I mentioned, all of us like in the Data Value Advocates program have different focus areas. I found out that in my focus area, what I could actually use is to bring up a little bit more educational, to reach out to young people and basically be like, hey, I know you're scrolling for over an hour, but I will tell you in a minute why you should be giving a hell about this topic. You know what the metaverse is, but do you know what are the potential consequences? Do you know who regulates it? Do you know how it works? Do you know why this is like this? Do you know you have a right to demand that your data can be canceled, and you have a right to demand that you should be the owner of your data? All of those things, someone has to tell them. Schools, some schools do that. Some schools do have some educational projects. It's extremely limited civic education in this regards. This is not part of their curricula. Plus, you need to join them when you can join them. TikTok and Instagram is going to be the thing. So if you go ahead again, this is an Instagram account that I'm launching in a couple of months, and you can decide to follow and be the first follower, and I will appreciate it. And the idea behind this is to start a conversation with people under 60 seconds on why they should focus on different topics. And we're talking about not just the metaverse, we're talking about data values, we're talking about privacy, but the challenge that I'm having in this project is to find the right kind of balance between the digital literacy, so the very basic stuff, and a digital proficiency. So that's where you come in. Now, I do know that we're a little bit out of time. Is that true? Do you think you can stay with me for 5 minutes, so we have to leave the room to someone?
We still have 10 minutes of the break.
Okay, if that's okay for you guys, I can take 5 minutes from your break. Next slide, please. I would like you to get into small groups. We can do we can group groups of 3, and maybe one of you can join. And I will also give you another mentee. I would like you to discuss this. So the important, what should be the topics that should be included into this kind of educational conversation? Who should be contacted, maybe interviewed, maybe someone that can, you know, like a focus, like if you know any initiative that should be advertised. How do we find the balance, and what kind of storytelling and approach would you recommend?
But this content have to be about data literacy, yes.
Sorry?
This content has to be about data literacy.
It can be anything about data. The point is, what do we need to tell? What I'm asking you, help me prepare the educational material for this. What should be included in all of this? What should be there? And I will also give you to gather your information. We should have another Menti, and you can add your answers. And this one is an open one, so you can add like very long answer to summarize what your thoughts are.
Can you show the questions once again?
Yes, absolutely. If you're still on the Menti thing, I don't need to share this. I mean, it's the same code. Okay. Can we go back on the slides? I can read the code aloud if you want. What time is the end of the break? So we actually have to close.
At 30. Okay, but this is a little bit not
Ahead. Okay.
okay.
Thanks. Is there someone? Is there another session in this room? Okay. Okay.
And instructions for very common. No, but it is like to be in their perfect. He's the one. Yeah.
Can start reading some of the answers aloud meanwhile you finish typing your thoughts. how to actually manage safe and efficient password and login process, explaining how and why data is gathered. It's a good point. I don't know how many of you have one of this like data gathering software to save all your password. I use the Google one because I'm lazy and I realize how bad that is. Yes. I am basically giving Google my whole life. They have access to all my password, but I'm lazy and I constantly forget my password because I try to make them different, but then I forget. So I basically depend on that. And many times I have to go on my iPhone and have to go into the password and having to find the password in there. My dream is to have a situation in which we're going to be having to have the same kind of situation, the thing that we have in Estonia with the access to things through Smart ID. So you have your code, your ID code, and you just log into things with your ID code, and that's it. I think Finland has a very similar system. We brought it to Finland, and Estonia has been selling it, selling infrastructure to other countries. But yeah, my dream is to have a situation in which we're going to be having our digital identity connected to one ID, which will make things easier to track their responsibility. Campaigning with influencers about data safety and data leaks. Secure internet interaction as content for Reels and TikTok. How data is collected by whom, how it is used, and how to protect yourself. Why the algorithms are dangerous and how it works. The social dilemma, that was a very interesting documentary. And why it is important to care. It gives motivation to learn about it and act on it. Cybersecurity, disinformation, fake news, mental health, self-esteem, and social media bullying. So, as we are approaching the closing, because we took a little bit more time because we had a little bit of like late start, but thank you for joining, even on the wrap up. I would love to share these results with you if you want, and I'm very looking forward to hear like also from you if you have any content specifically to recommend, if there is any study that you have encountered during like your own work or academic life that you think should be included into this educational digital booklet for young people. And I also invite you to take a look at the Data Value Advocate program. So currently, this is the first year. This is the first time that the Global Foundation, the Global Partnership has managed to receive funds to organize this. But the hope is that there will be like another call next year, and there will be a new generation of data value advocates. And I could not recommend this program more. I had the incredible opportunity this year to represent Europe and to work with people coming from all the different continents of the world. They have the most incredible experience and incredible interest in the topics, coming from very different backgrounds. So definitely, please do join the movement, do join the conversation, reach out. And the last, this is the last QR code I'll give you today. Again, promise, no viruses attached. But if you do want to stay in touch, that is my LinkedIn, that is my email, that is myself. That is my digital self. So if I can leave you with something for the end of the day, when you're thinking about the future of our children, do not forget that these children have a digital identity, and it's your responsibility to make sure that that is part of their protection as well. Because if you own your data, that also means that owning your data should not have an age. Thank you.